The Trek Geeks Podcast Network is proud to have Fansets as its presenting sponsor. Fansets is the home for amazing pin collectibles with over 400 officially licensed Star Trek pins and new releases every month.
Stay tuned for a special discount code worth 10% off your next order at fansets.com. Fansets, our pins have character.
We're still in 2024, and you can tell by the driving in Los Angeles. We have bus rides, we have police chases, we have a special reunion, and a really comfy looking bar. Oh yeah, and guess what? Punk rock still hates you. I'm Mike Bovia, and this is Discovering Trek Picard. Thanks for joining us on Discovering Trek, the Star Trek Universe companion, presented by Fansets. So this week's episode, there was really no need for any allegory, as everything that we saw was pretty much scenes that we're all too familiar with in today's world. So as we get into discussing it, let me introduce our esteemed roundtable of co-hosts. A couple weeks back, I said that Mike Thurlow was the hardest working man on the network, and I wasn't wrong. However, the Sci-Fi Sisters have been blowing us away with their multiple appearances on podcasts, on special live streams, on Star Trek cruises. They are getting big time celebrity guests. So our celebrity guest today is from the Sci-Fi Sisters. Welcome for her debut on Discovering Trek, Fran Taylor. And Fran, so great to have you joining us today to discuss this episode of Picard.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. I love Picard, and I'm glad to be here with you guys to discuss this episode. It's really something.
Well,
thank you for me.
Oh, you're welcome. As we discussed before we even started recording, don't thank us too soon, because you have to spend the next 40 some minutes talking to us. So
no, I can do that. There's nothing introverted about me. Okay.
Okay. Very good. So the aforementioned Mike Thurlow is back with us this week after attempting to drive across 3 states last week to join us. And then he quickly discovered that it really wasn't worth it to hang out with me and Jamie. If anything, he was trying to have the thrill of working with Casey. Welcome back, Mike.
Thanks. It's great to be back. I did miss you guys. It was hard not to be here last week. But I will say you all did a great job with last week's show, so I enjoyed listening to it after the fact.
Well, we had an old pro on with us, and hopefully Casey's listening. I'll try to emphasize the old part for him. And finally, I'm finding it tougher and tougher to tie my co-host into the current episodes for his introduction, but after his 15 minutes of fame on local cable television commercials, he's ready to fill in for Kirk Thatcher as the punk on the bus if necessary. Jamie, if you're going to do that, you really got to start working on growing your hair out, though.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'd have to grow the beard, too. I can't do like the Casey look where he, looked like he was trimming the mustache and stuff like that. So I'd have to go full beard.
Makeup could probably do something about that.
Yeah, probably.
Because I gotta believe that Kirk Thatcher didn't re-dye all of his hair for that. I'm sure it was either a wash in, wash out, or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, as is the thing, everybody loves our introductions. So, Jamie, if they want to tell us how much they like the introductions, where can they find us?
Well, if you'd like to follow the show on social media, you can find us at Discovering Trek, or you can join the conversation on Camp Kittimer. Just answer a few simple questions, And our wonderful admins, Haley, Jackie, and Fark, will let you in.
And this is a reminder that this episode of Discovering Trek provides spoilers for the Picard episode Watcher. If you have not watched yet, head over to Paramount Plus and watch the episode, and then head back. Failure to do so leaves you open to spoilers. And trying to read that leaves you open to twisting your tongue with that many times saying Watcher. Episode 204 of Star Trek Picard, Watcher, aired March 24th, 2022. The teleplay was written by Juliana James and Jane Maggs. The story was by Travis Fickett and Juliana James, and directed by Leah Thompson. With time running out to save the future, Picard takes matters into his own hands and seeks out an old friend for help. Meanwhile, Rios ends up on the wrong side of the law, and Jurati makes a deal with the Borg Queen. So we've already a little bit offline talked about this episode. So we will start off with Fran. Fran, thumbs up or thumbs down on this episode, and why do you feel that way?
Well, thumbs way up, both thumbs. I really love this episode. And as you said, it's not really an allegory. It was pretty much straightforward. You know, you didn't have to, okay, are they talking about? No, you didn't. Mm-hmm. So I really love this episode, and it spoke to me personally. And I might get a little emotional about it, but it really spoke to me personally. As far as the young lady that played the young Whoopi, some things she said hit me in the face.
Yep.
You know, and so thumbs up. What can I say?
Well, we're all here for you if the emotions start to overcome you. I think we can all help prop you up if necessary. Jamie, how about you?
I'm going to say yes on the thumbs up. Easter eggs all over the place. Kirk Thatcher on the Punk on the Bus was fantastic. I love how they even updated the song to I Still Hate You. Fantastic. 21st Street Mission, a nod to City on the Edge of Forever. Awesome. The Jackson Roy Kirk Plaza. So a nod to Jackson Roy Kirk, you know, the famous 21st century creator of Nomad from TOS, The Changeling. I love all the Gary 7 references from Assignment Earth, you know, with the Watchers, and then all the way right up to the end, the book of that blonde that was reading the book in front of Q, The Pallid Sun, a Dixon Hill mystery by Star Trek TNG writer Tracy Torme. Just awesome, you know. So I love this episode. I love Easter eggs. I loved all the Voyage Home references all over the place, and I just loved. I'm really, really loving Allison Pill more and more, and I just love that on her own she's jousting with Patrick Stewart from an acting standpoint, and then she goes jousting with the Borg Queen, Annie Warshing, at another point. Just her with one other actor, she's holding her own, and I think she's just fantastic. So I give this episode two thumbs up.
Okay, so now that Jamie's taken every single point that we could talk about today, we can all go home. Mike, how about your thumbs up or thumbs down?
Definitely 2 thumbs up for me. Yeah, Jamie just pretty much covered it all, but no. I actually, your comment about the allegory being not really an allegory this week, really, that's something as I watched it earlier today in preparation for this for a second time, it really hit me even more. The things that Guinan was saying and how she was saying it really, definitely hit the nail on the head of the world that we're living in now. And while I really like that, I struggle with that a little bit, because Star Trek is usually about allegory, and you can kind of make your own opinions about it or interpret it how you want to. And in this episode, there was really no interpretation needed, but it was still a great Star Trek adventure. I really enjoyed Raffi and Seven's adventures in the police van, the police vehicle. The only thing that I think bothered me was that she only knew the gas, or at least, the gas was the only thing that she had her foot on. And, she didn't, until Jurati told her to stop. That was the only time I could think that she used the brakes. Like it was just go. There was one speed, and there was, so I thought that was kind of funny. And I agree with Jamie. Alison Pill is just killing it. And, being not as big of a fan as the rest of you were prior to season 2, I have become a huge fan of Jurati this season, and for all the reasons that Jamie said. Her acting chops are top notch, and she can hold her own with Patrick Stewart, Annie Wershing, just about anybody at this point. And I hope she does get out of the La Serena / whatever it's called in the alternate timeline, but to see her interact and do some other interactions with other characters. So great episode. Leah Thompson was amazing in directing this, and the new Guinan, Ito Aguirre, I think is how I said to say it earlier, but she was amazing. So great episode.
Yeah, I gotta echo all three of you on this. Definitely thumbs up for me. Saying what Jamie said, callbacks galore in this episode. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit later in the awards section, but I like that the writers and producers are using the callbacks as a means to tell the story instead of just putting them in there as eye candy for people, because that's one of the things that everyone talked about when season 1 Picard came on, that they were hoping that they didn't just throw TNG characters in there for the sake of throwing them in there, that there was a purpose behind it. And I kind of feel like they're doing the same thing here with some of the callback stuff that they're doing, or the Easter egg things. It's helping tell the story. But again, I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get to the awards.
Please specify how you would like to proceed, sir.
So key points from this episode that stood out to you. Mike, we'll start with you. What were some of the key points you saw in this episode?
I think going back to my Jurati comment, when she and Picard were in the chateau and that whole conversation, I just thought that was a really poignant conversation, really powerful, both from her perspective and Patrick Stewart's, just to have that, and I forget how Picard put it, but just visiting the future tomorrows, or maybe he said that later on with Guinan, but visiting yesterday's past. Essentially, he's in the past, but he's also in his mind, he's in the past. So I thought that was really powerful. Powerful conversation. And the other piece of that I really enjoyed was the kind of callback. I think it was to Cause and Effect, where the number 15 came up so many times.
Good catch.
So that kind of repeating piece that Data finally caught on to in Cause and Effect with Kelsey Grammer. The threes, in this case it's 15s, and how that sort of, and you don't catch it the first time, so I watched it that part really closely the second time, and how you do see her moving the abacus, and then you watch her pick out the volume of the Britannica, and then also the wine, and I just thought it was really really great, and that Picard kind of put that all together, could see all of that and recognize that. So that was a really great scene for me. The other scene really was when Guinan and Picard were doing the donations, and Guinan was just talking about the world as it is and how she saw the world. And I'll talk a little bit more about this later on. But it's hard not to feel like Guinan in this episode. It's really, and I think that that's both a testament to the writers, but also to the acting, to just feel exactly what Guinan was feeling, and a bit of that hopelessness at times is really powerful. So that kind of got me emotional just listening to her words, and it's those are two of the standouts for me. I mean, I already talked about the police chase scene was really exciting, and Jurati and the Queen going at it. I mean, so yeah, it was a really. I actually like this one better than last week's. Although after watching last week's a couple of times, I grow to appreciate that episode more. I think last week's episode kind of had the problem of following two really exciting episodes in the opening sequence. So it felt a little bit slower last week to me, but this week it felt like full speed ahead, like we're moving things along. And even the preview for next week is even a little bit darker. So yeah, those are some of the things that I saw. I'm excited to hear what else stood out for you guys.
Jamie?
Well, I think a big standout for me in this episode was the whole Guinan situation. And, I think Ito did a very nice job, and I actually appreciated her more the more times I watched it. And I think for me, I kind of was really hoping. I knew we were going to see Guinan in the past. I knew that in the back of my head before we got to this episode, but I was really kind of hoping to see some sort of Whoopi Goldberg de-aging type technology. And I was kind of a little disappointed. I think the first time I saw it that they didn't try to do that. And, so for me, it was like, I wasn't really totally in love with her as a character when I first saw it, of the actress. But as I take a step back, it's kind of, to me, it's like, those were going to be difficult shoes to step into. And I wasn't going to be happy in the beginning with whoever they got to do it. But as the more I watch it, like I said, the more stronger I feel that she kind of conveyed some of that attitude and that feeling that Whoopi brought to that character. But I'm kind of struggling with things like I love the episode Time's Arrow. So for me I'm trying to kind of wrap my head around the fact that she wouldn't know who Picard was, even in the past, and I obviously I've seen a lot of David Mack talking about his whole scenario on Twitter about why she doesn't know who he is. And I'm still trying to kind of grasp that, but I'm still kind of stuck in that Time's Arrow type of time frame. Some things I wasn't a huge fan of. I know Mike, you kind of talked about a little bit, the car chase. I did like certain parts of it, but I wasn't like a huge fan of it. I think it was a little contrived. I think the vehicle was a little too easy to steal. I mean, you're outside a police station and there's police officers all over the place and nobody's kind of noticing them breaking into this car. And I mean, even when they're driving away, peeling away, like nobody's even paying attention to it. I just thought in 2024, the police would be all over that much sooner, much faster, and I get it. It was created. I figured
there has to be a spike strip somewhere. Well, that was what was coming into my brain.
Yeah. I mean, why would we have a thing down in a police station? I don't know. It kind of, to me, didn't make sense. And I get it that it was ramped up for action and it was ramped up to kind of create this scene. And it was done really for comedic value. People wanted to see that interaction between Raffi and Seven and the arguing, but I wasn't a huge fan of that sequence for some reason. But another thing that I really liked about this episode is the voyage home parallels. And one I think of specifically is, I think back to when Kirk was talking to Jillian Taylor in the restaurant, and she asked him, you must be from outer space. And he basically tells her the complete truth, which is absurd. Like to somebody in the 20th century, they're like, you're lying. Obviously, I don't believe you. And I like how they kind of did the same thing with Rios when he was talking to the ICE officer. he tells him the exact truth, but it sounds so crazy and ridiculous that nobody believes it. But I just love how they're just doing these subtle things that are callbacks to like the Voyage Home or Assignment Earth, or, you know, I just think that those are great things that they're doing. And, you know, obviously we see the end of the episode with the blonde sitting in front of, you know, Q. Obviously, I think she's the divergence. I think there's something obviously going on there. But what is wrong with Q? Why does his powers not work?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because she's somehow connected to Picard that they don't work? I don't know, but those are some. I think this episode raised so many questions, but it just, to your point, Mike, it just really propelled the story forward.
So I got a comment there about Q, because, you know, we watched the episodes on Thursday. This is now Saturday that we're recording, so we've had 2.5 days of watching Twitter to see what everyone else has to say about the episode. And somebody pointed out, and I'm going to apologize because I can't remember who pointed it out, but they pointed out that we're kind of seeing a de-escalating of Q's powers progressively. In the beginning, he did the snap, and we see the flash of him aging for Picard. Then later, they're in the courtyard, and he snaps, and there's no flash, but they change to a different setting. Now he snaps, and nothing happens. So, and again, something you mentioned, Jamie, the subtleties of how they're delivering things. I didn't even pick up on that until it was pointed out. So that is really interesting.
Speaking really quickly about John Delancey and also the Watcher, which we haven't talked about. I was, and this is my ongoing criticism with Picard and Discovery to a much smaller extent, is the leaving their names in the opening credits. Just really, for me, I really wish that they wouldn't do that. I really wish that just the main cast would just be in the opening credits consistently, and then they would end the show with like guest starring or a special appearance by.
Yes, especially what you're saying, Mike. If it's a special appearance by, like, how long was John Delancey in this episode?
Right. How long was Orla Brady in this episode?
Right.
You know, I would have loved to have had. And I had forgotten, as I watched it the second time today, I had forgotten about the ending. I'd kind of gotten in my mind to the place where they're about to do something to stop the bus. And I had forgotten about the subsequent scenes, or even the one with Picard. But it's really frustrating. Like, just leave it out. I would have rather seen Orla Brady's name at the end of the episode on the credits, and just had no expectation that she was going to be in this episode.
Well, I've thought about that too. But however, I've also thought about, is there some kind of union contractual thing that goes on?
That's what I was wondering.
I don't know, because I don't know. But is there some kind of Hollywood union SAG thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
That they have to do it. Yeah.
They definitely have to do it based on certain criteria. Because, I mean, you'd even look at like last season, even in Discovery, it's like, some of the bridge characters on there are not part of the main cast because they don't meet certain requirements, but then the guest stars, you know, I kind of think back to like, and I know I talk about Star Wars all the time, but I mean, George Lucas, when he put the credits at the end, he got in a lot of trouble for doing that. Like, they allowed it to happen. Because it was
different. Yep.
Yeah. They allowed him to do it in A New Hope, but when he tried to do it in Empire Strikes Back, like, he got sued by all the unions and paid a ton of fines and all that other stuff. So I know there is definitely some legality to, depending on how the character is used and
the billing.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, like how they, even with the opening credits, like certain other behind the scenes people, how they're put into those credits as well. But then how they do the credits at the end, there is definitely some legality to it. that I'm pretty familiar with.
Yeah,
that tripped one of us up one week.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can see legally how it's important, and we want these actors to get the recognition that they deserve. But for this episode specifically, I think both of the actors came at the end of the show. Could have even been like go to credits and then do that scene, after the credits, almost like a post credits, like
we're gonna do
Marvel.
We're going Marvel now, huh?
Yeah, something like that. Just something where that would have been. I mean, I was still equally shocked that Laris is the Watcher.
Is she though?
Right. I mean, is she correct? But it's definitely a very interesting development in this season's.
At the very least, it's a Laris lookalike.
Well, yeah.
But you gotta understand though too is that Watcher was going from body to body, so it may be a case of the Watcher is a physical representation of whoever that person wants it to be. I mean, we think of we talk about how Picard, he longs to be with Laris. Maybe that's who he wants the Watcher to be. So that's if that Watcher became present to, let's say, Raffi, maybe it would be Evan Evagora. Maybe maybe it would be Elnor would be the Watcher.
Oh yeah, right? No, that's a really good point.
Or if Jurati was meeting the Watcher, maybe it would be the Borg Queen or Bruce Maddox. Right? It could represent that one thing that you're longing for or that you're missing. So we don't know if that's actually the physical representation. That might just be Picard's interpretation of it.
Yeah, that's a good prediction, Jamie.
Okay. So what stood out to me?
Yeah.
In this episode, of course, guys, the young Whoopi, and just about every other line she said stood out to me. What really hit me a couple of lines hit me in the chest, but the one that really hit me in the chest was they traded hoods for suits. That hit me like no other line I had heard in a while. And also, they got this tiny planet in the galaxy, and all they want to do is fight. What's going on literally now, today. And also the fact that she said, there are few who have, resources and everything. And I connected. I'm not, going to say what I think she was talking about or who she was talking about, but, it involves space travel. Let's put it that way. That's what came to my brain.
Folks' greatest fear is having less.
Less. Yep. Yes. And I was like, oh my gosh, somebody's writing their tails off here, And then when he said, you just have to have patience. You have to have patience. And when she said to him, people look like you can have patience, not people who look like me. And I'm personally thinking about the lady, and I should know her name, the new Supreme Court Justice nominee, and what she's going through now. This woman is, but never mind. But, patience,
No, Fran, I want to hear what you have to say about it. I really do.
Oh, okay. Well, this woman is eminently qualified to be a Supreme Court justice. She's tops, because I don't think he would have picked her if she wasn't. And yet she's got what I think these mediocre men questioning her qualifications. This woman has been a jurist for years. She, and she's
it's like a witch hunt.
Yes. For whereas there's no witch, And they're sitting there trying to pick this woman apart, and they really don't have the, she's resilient, she's smart, she's intelligent, but Cory Booker brought her to tears by being compassionate to her, because she's going through all this stuff with these mediocre guys, and she looks like me. I look like her. They look like Patrick Stewart. And that's not to say, I'm not saying that all white men are bad. That is not what I'm saying. But when she said that those hearings immediately came to mind, because that lady is me. That's my sister that's sitting there in that chair, taking all that rough from these mediocre men, So, and I really admire her patience and her integrity for going through what she's going through, and she shouldn't have to. So,
good tie-in, Fran.
Thank you. I just it's automatic, whether you all know it or not. With black women, with black women, that the stuff that we have to go through. Because I remember when The Measure of a Man, when Whoopi was sitting there at the bar talking to him, and he was saying, she said, the people that you can throw away, and whenever I see that gets me too. And he says, you're talking about slavery. And he said, well, she says it goes more than that, but what they wrote for him when she said it and how she said it really rings true. The people that do the dirty jobs and just, I'm done. I can't talk right now, but it brought me back to that. When Guyana was talking to him, when they was, y'all know Measure of a Man, one of the best episodes ever in TNG. Shout out to Melinda Snodgrass for that. But I see it, we tend to look at Star Trek or we tend to look at the situations a bit differently because we're on the other side. And we're not blaming all white people. We're not. It's just the truth. The truth of the matter is here we are in the 20, what are we, 20, whatever century we're in. And we're fighting. We're fighting. We're
amongst each other.
Yes, with each other. And it's not just, I'm not just talking about global, not just domestically, but globally. We're fighting, and I sometimes wish that there were, that the Vulcan, somebody would land and could we unite as a world? Could we do it? I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
And you think too, Guinan's character, if you tie in Time Zero to this whole equation, she's been on the Earth for hundreds of years, and she's in this episode, she's just really at her lowest point. She's just like I am so done dealing with these people, basically us as humans right now. I'm so done with these stupid people that can't get along. And, we've got enough food to feed every person on the planet, but yet, 1 out of 3 children are starving on the Earth. And we've got enough money for everybody but yet we still have homeless people. It's like, she's like, I'm just done. I can't do this anymore. I can't process it anymore. She's at such a low point. And like I said, it's very different from where she was in Time Zero. And it's very different of where she is when she's on the Enterprise D, but it's like, it's real. It's where she's at right now, emotionally.
Yeah.
Whew. And you know what? I know that's kind of heavy, and I want to put this in there. Whenever I'm going to change the whole motif here. Whenever I see somebody get tased, and I know it's painful and everything, but it is so hilarious to me when people get tased on TV. When he got tased and he fell and he was trembling and stuff, I lost it because it's so funny, because I've seen people get tased on cops and all that. I'm like, no, they didn't tase him. He's trembling and all that stuff. But I had to put that in there. That was a funny part, really funny part to me. And I was glad he really wasn't tased, but it was hilarious. It really was.
Thank you for bringing that back, Fran, because I wasn't sure how I was going to follow you after that. I'm glad that you brought my spirits up a little bit, because I have to agree with everything that you said. There was a few different things, not even focused on Guinan, but when you when you go back to the ICE detention center that Rios was in. And he's talking to the other detainee there in Spanish. And he says, they make you swear allegiance. That's hardcore. And, it's one thing you would think for someone who was born and raised in a country, for that country to then tell you to swear allegiance to it. It's another thing for a person that is either visiting or is transplanted to the country to demand that. And you can see what it is that, the point that he was trying to get across there.
And they're being detained at the time.
Right. Yeah. They're being detained, and that's on the wall, essentially kind of telling them, look, if you do this, maybe we'll let you go. But if you're not gonna abide by our ridiculous notions of how things should be, then what's going to happen to them? It's not even deportation, because in some from what that ICE officer was saying, deportation would almost be better for these people because they're getting sent to a sanctuary district. And we know from past tense that those are the people that are forgotten. I think the girl in the clinic at the beginning said that, once ICE gets you, you disappear. You're no longer, you're not going to be found. So, that kind of hit me there. But did anybody else pick up on the fact that in the pre-credit sequence that we found out Picard's heritage and how he goes from why it is that we have a French man with an English accent? He talked about the tunnels underneath Chateau Picard and how Chateau Picard had been taken over by the Nazis during World War II, and the Picards escaped to England. So, hey, now we know why an Englishman, Patrick Stewart, is playing a Frenchman, Jean-Luc Picard, and it all makes sense. It's all been explained to us.
But however, they tried to explain that in that really terrible, I can't even think of the name of the episode, where Data told him, French just got passé. It just went, it went obsolete. And the look on Patrick Stewart's face was like, oh my God, the one where they had the black folks acting foolish. It was in that episode that he tried to explain that that's how French, why he spoke English instead of French, even though he was French. So I'm like, okay, they're gonna forget that part. Okay.
Yeah, it's funny because I was thinking about that as soon as that point was made, like how the line that he had where they were talking about the colors on the flags and how he said, the United States had red, white, and blue, whereas the French, more appropriately, had blue, white, and red. Yeah. That was hilarious. That ICE officer was a real winner, wasn't he?
He did have a Ferengi face. He did.
Yeah. You were hoping that Rios at some point was going to be able to turn on him and just give him a whipping, because that guy deserved it. He just deserved a good beating. I have in my notes here that Luna was the star of the show in 10 Forward. She was such a cute pup there. The time sickness that Guinan had, that kind of echoes back to yesterday's Enterprise, I thought, because Picard told her that it's something that's uniquely Elurian, something that they experience when time is amiss. And again, I'm going to go with something I saw on Twitter that somebody said she is a younger version of Guinan at this point. So she wouldn't have learned how to deal with that, and it would still make her sick. Whereas, 300, 400 years in the future, maybe she's experienced it a few times and has adjusted. And that's why, we don't see Whoopi puking in the corner in yesterday's Enterprise. Terry Metalis, Jamie, the executive producer, he actually explained the Times Arrow thing the same way that David Mack did. He said that is the reason why Whoopi doesn't know, because these guys, our current characters, were replaced their counterparts in this divergence of time. And so when they get sent back to 2024, that existence of the whole Times Arrow scenario never happened. And so that's why Guinan doesn't know who he is.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's still, like I said, you're just trying to, because I go back to Times Arrow and I go back to like Back to the Future 2, and I'm trying to kind of wrap my head around, the divergence in time.
Hey, just remember, Janeway said that temporal mechanics will give everyone a headache.
I mean, they obviously picked the right director because she was very familiar with time travel, so, they definitely picked the right one.
Did you all scratch your heads when he said his name to her? Did it look like she seemed like she knew who he was, or that name should be significant to her?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was where, because like she wasn't giving any, like when he said you're an Elorian, that kind of perked her interest, that she knew something was up. But to your point, the second he said I'm Jean-Luc Picard,
she stopped,
pushed it over the edge to, okay, I can trust this person.
Yeah, and they never really kind of explained that either. So, it was just this sudden shift in her demeanor, and she tells him to get in the car. And so I hope that we'll get a little more explanation of that. And I actually hope that we will see young Guinan again at some point.
I hope so too.
Because she did a marvelous job portraying the younger Whoopi. I'm like, oh, okay. Because at first I was like, oh, okay, what is this? And then as it went on, I'm like, okay, thumbs up, girl, you got this.
Yeah, even her mannerisms and everything. I watched The Ready Room for this episode, and she said that she went back and she studied. She said she started to study specifically just the episodes that Whoopi was in, and she found herself down a rabbit hole where she ended up rewatching all of Next Gen when she was preparing for the part. I thought, man, you know what? I could handle a job like that where I need to study Star Trek in order to do my work.
I find it amazing that they have these stars and these directors and production people, for the most part, who are Trekkies. Some of most of them are like, yeah, I watched it. I watched the ones in syndication. Of course, I'm glad to be on Star Trek. And Leah Thompson, I was like, oh, okay, she knows Star Trek. I'm amazed that we got so many, Trekkies out there in the business.
We'd like to take a moment to talk about Fansets, the presenting sponsor of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network.
Fansets is the home of amazing pin collectibles. The quality of the merchandise they put out is second to none. It's not just Star Trek that they offer, as they have something for all different types of fandoms, including Scooby-Doo, DC Comics, Batman 66, Harry Potter, and Rick and Morty.
And as you all know, Fansets releases new pins twice a month. We had some wonderful releases back on March 15th, where we saw some nice micro crew, including Luxana Troy, Adira from Discovery Season 3, and then also the Cetacean Ops crew member, Mr. Lieutenant J.G. Matt, the beluga whale from Lower Decks. And obviously, we're looking forward to traveling to Mission Chicago next month, and there'll be 3 special pins released for this event. So please keep watching fansets.com for all these special pins and also the 400 officially licensed Star Trek pins, including the Delta's Done Right collection, as well as micro crew pins, episode pins, and many other great designs. So please go to fansets.com and put a whole bunch of pins into your cart.
As a listener to the show, you can receive 10% off your next order from Fansets by using the code Discovering Trek at checkout. And remember that you receive free shipping in the U.S. on orders of $30 or more.
Fansets. Our pins have character. And we thank Fansets for being the presenting sponsor of Discovering Trek and the Trek Geeks Podcast Network.
Sometimes we joke when we reach this point in the episode, the overall message or how maybe we interpret it, what it can teach us about ourselves or humanity. And sometimes the joke is really just because it's hard to always pick something that the episode is telling us. But I don't think that we had that problem this week. So I believe in the rotation, it is Jamie's turn to lead off.
It's kind of funny because we keep using that word allegory, and I actually used allegory in my notes, saying that it was an allegory for what's taking place in our time. But I guess, like you guys keep mentioning throughout this episode, it's really hitting us in the face. There's not much secret or hidden about it, but really. This episode is an exact example of the challenges that we're currently facing. And, that expression that was used in this episode, changes always come later than you think, is really powerful, a really powerful message. And I think the writers are telling us that if we don't change our ways right now in our modern day, we are never going to reach that future that's talked about in Star Trek. We're never going to reach that future where we are seeking out new life forms and new civilizations, because we can't get it right here on Earth right now. So the question is, what will the future bring? If we keep going the way we're going, we're going to turn into that totalitarian government that we see in the alternate future. So instead of going out to seek new life, to seek new organizations, the second we meet an alien, we're going to be killing them, because we as humans can't figure it out right now. And we're killing humans right now. We're killing other races, other people that have different ideas than we do, or who look different, or, I could go in any different directions, but they're saying that if we keep going the way we're going, we're going to be that alternate timeline that we see in the future. That's all I got.
It was a lot. Thanks. Fran, how about you?
Jamie, just hit the nail on the head. I don't think I can add any more to that. I was sitting there looking and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're not going to make it. That was my trend that was the overall theme. If we keep on the way that we're on a trajectory that we're on now, we're not going to make it. We're going to fall by the wayside because we can't even get it right here on Earth. We can't even get it right among the planet and among countries. And so, I'm glad to be, a Trekkie, because I think for the most part, we look at the future with Trek-colored eyes, and we hope for the future, as Gene thought that we could do this. I don't know.
There are days.
Changes. Yeah. Yeah. Let's hope something changes. And I know it's cliche, but we got to be that change.
Mike?
Jamie stole my quote, but I'm still gonna. So Jamie, now I feel for you because
You did it to me. I could do it to you.
Turnabout is fair play here, but I think that out of everything that is said in this episode, and there are so many powerful lines delivered by Guinan and Picard in this episode, I do agree that the Picard quote, "Change always comes later than we think it should," is probably one of the most powerful quotes I've heard in Star Trek in a long time. And as I was watching this episode, I identified with Guinan. I identified with that hopelessness and that frustration, and that, like, if Guinan has an extra seat on her ship, I'll be more than happy to go on it with her, because it is, it is very frustrating, which is probably why I watch very little news. It's never anything that is uplifting. It's rarely anything that says that we're making progress as a human species, helping one another. Even when leaders from other countries are begging for our help, we are not present. We are doing something else. We are ignoring what is being said directly to our faces through words and through actions. And as I continued to watch the episode and felt that hopelessness that Guinan embodies, I began to see Picard as the person who's bringing hope to this world. And it really was powerful for me to realize that Picard is saying, yes, changes always come later than we think it should. But he remained hopeful. He remained that ever present, like, we need you to stay here, Guinan. We need you. Don't leave Earth too soon. Don't give up on us. And, by the end of that sort of interchange, when, she leaves him with the first of the Watchers takeovers, I began to feel hope, that the hope that Picard embodies, the hope that we can make this future better. And for me, that brought it right back to the theme of Star Trek, right? The idea that the future can be better, the future will be better. We just need to take an active part in making that change happen. And so, while we get mired down in the feelings that Guinan embodies for us in a lot of ways, especially as Trek fans, I think it's important to really listen to Jean-Luc Picard and have hope that the future can change. And that's what we should be looking to do.
Just going to say that great minds think alike, because the first thing in my notes here is change always comes later than we think it should. But I'm actually going to add a caveat to that. Change always comes later than, forget the we think. Change always comes later than it should. As a species, humans have always been more reactive than proactive. So those changes always only happen after something blows up in their face. So I was brought up in a house where my parents raised me that the color of your skin didn't matter, what you did as a person, your, how can I say this? How you are portrayed by others didn't matter, but what really mattered is how you acted, the type of person that you were. And that was what determined who was a better person than someone else. Someone who acts in the way of good is obviously better than someone that acts in the way of bad. And, the bad can take on as many faces as the good. And it doesn't matter if it's my face or Fran's face or George Takei's face. Any of us could be on either side of that line, good or bad. You still have to give the bad a chance until they prove themselves to not be worth that chance. The good is the side that you want to be with. And I think at this stage in my life, I'm in my 40s. For a long time, I never realized how bad things were until I became an adult and started looking at how things were. I think so many people for so long thought that in 2022, life would be so much better, that you would be closer to that world that Gene started thinking of in 1964, 1966, and continued on in the 80s with Next Gen. And it's interesting, as I go back and I listen to the history of Star Trek on audiobook, so many people of the time complained about how paradise-like TNG was, because there was no inner struggle, no drama. Everyone was happy with each other and friendly. But isn't that better than what we're dealing with today? Wouldn't everybody trade what we see now in a heartbeat forget about the technology part, just for the sense of being able to get along with each other and not caring what somebody looks like or what they do when they enter their house, but who they are as a person? And I do see exactly what you were saying, Mike, about Picard, having that glimmer of hope and trying to share that with Guinan, to not give up. Can people work together and hold out hope for that change to happen? Yeah, I think so. I think humans have been doing that for many years, and it's been, I think, highlighted even more since the 60s with JFK and Martin Luther King, and really making a push for change. But it's been a long time. When's the change going to happen?
I'm in my mid-60s, gentlemen, and I've seen a lot. Okay. I was born and raised in the South, and, there was progress. There was so much progress, And then I want to say, I'm saying the last. Okay, I don't want to blame. I don't want to put the blame on one person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because it's not one person can't do all this, because
Mm-hmm.
that one person have to have allies who go along with this. So, I think we made progress with, the queer community. We did that. People were able to be who they were and love who they love and all that. We made progress, and I'm shocked they didn't try to roll that back. But these last few years, I'm shocked all over again, because I just wish some of my ancestors had been here for Barack Obama and what that meant to us. And then after Barack Obama, I think, and he wasn't perfect, but after him, things just kind of rolled back. And that's what I thought about when she said they replaced the hoods with suits. So I've seen a lot in this world. I came of age in the 70s, but I've seen a lot, and let's hope it gets better. But I'm a TOS. I'm a original Trekkie. I started looking at Trek when I was 11 years old with Miss Nichols up there, and that was amazing to me, because Whoopi Goldberg and I are like a year apart in age. So I know when she said, "Oh, look, Con, there's a colored lady on TV," and I'm like, "Oh my God," So let's see what it happens, but there may be something up the road. We just got to have patience, as he says.
Patience. Yep.
yes, we got to have patience because we can't change anything anyway.
Well, it's hard for people that have the type of heart to want to see the good in people.
Yeah.
Regardless of who they are. Oh, hey, this is round table. We are having conversation.
Yeah, Fran, I really appreciated you bringing up the progress of the queer community. But as we're seeing in Florida and other places, there's some backtrack on that as well, and in Texas. And I think now the focus is even more importantly on kids and specifically trans kids who are going to suffer for what we're doing, what some places are doing to these parents and to these teachers and to these kids. And so, I feel like in some ways we take a step forward and then we take 2 steps back, and it feels like this constant battle. And, I think over the last couple of years, certainly since, 2020 and the surgence of Black Lives Matter coming into the forefront of the news, we're continuing to fight for our future every day. And I think that the future that we hope to build, and the one that we hope that Star Trek will embodies and will become, is not just a generational fight, it's a daily fight. It's not something that we can give up on at any time. And it's clear that we can't, because people are trying to take us backwards, and we need to continue to fight and step forward and be the voices out there of change, and encourage people to get involved, to vote, to, specifically the Trek community. Anyone who's a Trek fan should be out there voting, and even in the off elections, because those are the ones that actually can really make, can make an impact. So, yeah, I think that, change comes. I like what you did there, Mike, with change comes later than it should. But I also want to say that change isn't going to come unless we fight for it every day.
I was thinking too, as you guys were talking, as well as, back when Gene Roddenberry was thinking about this vision, he really was thinking a lot about technology as well, and how we were going to make all these great advances in technology as the future came, and it was going to push people together, and it was going to make things easier. It was going to, and the sad part for me too is to look out and see that, the technology has gotten so much better over the years, but people have gotten worse. Mm-hmm. It's like the technology has made people worse. It's made people lazier. It's made people greedier. All these things that are supposed to make our lives easier so that we can be better people and support people better and connect with people better and faster and easier. It's just done the opposite. It's made things more expensive, and made people more greedier, and made people more like a bully. And it's just all these things that, once again, are designed for technology to make this place better. You can't change the people that are in there. And it's just, that's the part that's most discouraging. And I think, like, if Gene were to be alive, or anybody thinking along his vision would say, like it would be discouraging, like I said, mm-hmm. with that, how the technology hasn't made us better, or look at things better, or things are more expensive than they've ever been. Gas prices are crazy. Oil prices are crazy. It's we've got everything at our fingertips, but we can't feed people. It's just, it's discouraging.
I think it all boils down to, I think what we've all been saying here, that, does politics screw with things? Sure it does. But it all boils down to who you are as a person. I'm not a political person, but as a person, And of course, I don't know him personally, but as a person, Barack Obama seemed like the kind of guy I'd want to go out and get a beer with and just chat with, you know? He seemed like a decent guy that was the type of person that would chat with anybody. Whereas the last one that we had in this country, he just let's forget about the politics side. Forget about, what party he was and what he did here. As a person, he seemed like a jerk. And that was before he was even a presidential candidate, let alone a president.
He didn't even have a dog. How can you not have a dog in the White House?
Well, how can you just not have a dog? Forget about in the White House. How can you be a person and not have a dog?
Or a cat, for the cat.
Yeah.
He didn't have any animal companions, So I'm like,
and again, this isn't saying one political party is better than another, because I've heard from people on the Democratic side that have said, when you look strictly at his political, the things that he accomplished as a president, it was a pretty decent presidency. However, when he started opening his mouth, that was what took everything downhill. And that's why they will look at that term and say it was a failure. Whereas, maybe there are some things that other presidents had not gotten accomplished. People look at, here's a great example, Jimmy Carter. People look at him, as a president, not, but as a person,
he was a great guy.
Yeah.
Still is. He's a humanitarian of the century.
Yes.
So it doesn't always, the political side of things does not always matter. It's what type of person are you?
That's part of the problem, though. To be successful in politics, you often have to be not a nice person, or you have to bend the rules, or you have to lie, or you have to cheat, or you have to bully people, or that's the sad reality of the world that we live in right now.
Yeah.
Is that you can't be a good guy and be a good politician. You just can't, because of the rules of the game, and that's the part that's sad. That's the part that's sad.
And that's that. And we all know that wasn't Gene's version of the future.
Yeah.
Jamie,
I want to go back. Oh, go ahead, Fran, finish.
Go ahead. I thought his version of the future, first of all, embodied compassion. That's it. That's all I had to say, was the compassionate part about it.
I just wanted to say, go back to Jamie's comment about technology. I mean, I agree with you that, technology has kind of brought up all of these negative facets of our culture and and the people in it. But I also have to say that on the flip side, we are talking across three different states, 4 different locations, being able to broadcast our voice to anyone who has a mobile device or a computer who wants to download
internet signal. Yep.
Yeah, who wants to download a podcast. So, there are facets of technology, yes, that are extremely, have been used in a very negative way, but and given the last couple of years that we've all been in, I mean, people are over Zoom. Well, we are on Zoom right now talking about Trek and about all these important things. And I, as much as the negative is there, I look to the positive of what our level of technology has brought us to be able to do in this time and in this place, and sharing the 4 of our voices. Fran, I want to thank you for all that you've shared so far in this episode. It's just been an amazing perspective to have, and a powerful perspective. And so, I think that those are the things that really the technology can really enhance and bring us all together in that way. And we did the telethon. The Trek Geeks Podcast Network and the Roddenberry Podcast Network did the telethon for the Hollywood Food Coalition, and how amazing that turned out. For, a 3-hour show turned into a 7-hour show. $5,000 turned into, I don't know, what's over $70,000.
Over the stuff, yeah.
So, I mean, there is a lot of good that our technology can and does do. And, we just need, we need to stay with Picard's vision of we can change this, stick with it, keep going, have faith, have hope, and just continue to move forward.
Yeah. And I think I think all four of us on here can remember when you probably were bullied for being the guy that liked Star Trek or the girl that likes Star Trek. Like, let's look at our screen right now and see what Star Trek has done in bringing 4 incredibly different voices and personalities together and agreeing on a lot of the same points. And is it going to be perfect? No, of course not. But can we talk civilly and still have disagreements? Yep. Because that's what it means to be a person with a heart. And for all of you that might not like what we said, you can direct your comments to Jamie Rogers at
Oh, there's that bus again, Jamie, rolling right over you.
Just back on up.
He's not he's not going to be playing punk on the bus. He's going to be playing punk under the bus.
By the way, I think that these last, 20 minutes of discovering Trek has probably been one of the most powerful discussions I've had in a long time, just about the present and the future. And I just want to call that out. I mean, honestly, we should probably stop recording right now and just call it quits, because I don't think we're going to get any better.
It can only go downhill from here.
Right.
But then we wouldn't have the prediction section, Mike.
which is where it's all going to go downhill.
Starfleet Command is proud to present you the Christopher Pike Medal of Valor.
All right. Well, let's move forward. So we have our award round. And since I have failed to be the leadoff hitter at all here, I will go first. And I think we're all going to be similar in this regard with Ito Aguirre. She nails it as a younger Guinan. Forget about the look, because they did a really good thing with her hair, making her very much a younger Guinan without the hat to cover up the beautiful locks. All right. But her study was fantastic, because she had a lot of Whoopi's mannerisms in the way she acted. The way she spoke had a lot of Whoopi's inflections in it. So I don't care what people have to say about recasting and this and that. The casting directors for the current Star Treks have been nailing it so far in recasting of beloved characters, because they're finding people that care about what they're doing and are doing the homework to make sure that the way they're doing it is spot on. Number 2, Santiago Cabrera. The performance of him in the ICE detention center ranged from him being incensed to him having compassion and showing the lighter side of Rios when he was talking to Teresa. I can't remember what her last name is, the doctor. And then the funny side of him as he talked to the ICE officer and told him exactly who he was. And I know we mentioned that already, but just It had the shades of Star Trek 2, Star Trek 4 rather, but at the same time, like, just the delivery of that speech, I thought was hilarious. I couldn't stop laughing looking at that. And then finally, this writing team for this episode, I'll call them out again because they did a great job. It was Juliana James, Jane Maggs, and Travis Fickett, all working together to write this in teleplay or story form. I mentioned it already. There's a lot of great callbacks and Easter eggs in this episode, but again, being used to tell a good story, right down to, Jamie mentioned the City on the Edge of Forever references with the 21st Street Mission. I mean, that helps tell the story of what Picard and Guinan are talking about in that scene. I mean, it just works. So it's perfect for what they were trying to get across here. All right, Mike.
Well, I agree with you on Ida's performance. She was amazing. I hope we get to see more of her. And in fact, I didn't even realize that she's been in some other shows that I've watched, and she is my birthday twin. So super excited about that. Her birthday is also June 6th. So
you know who mine is? Michael Dorn.
Oh, nice. So I am a big fan of hers, and she's been in a few other shows that I've watched, but I now have to go back and kind of find out what characters she played. But an amazing actress, and really want to give a huge shout out to the producers for casting her in that role. I think that this episode would not be what it is without director Leah Thompson. And the way that she did this show. If you watch The Ready Room, you hear a lot about her fandom in Star Trek. You also hear about how shooting a block of 2 episodes, so you can learn a little bit about the directing process, which makes sense given that if you're on a set and you have some scenes from the set in one episode and you have some scenes from that set in the next episode, it makes sense to do them in a block like that. But balancing that as a director is in fact the way that she explains it is that because they were doing these kind of block episode directing gigs, that's how she sort of got the job. Was she was recommended to Terry Matalas by I forget, she directed some episodes of Stargirl, and so because they do the same sort of thing with block directing, that's partly how she got the gig. I mean, her name alone would want me to hire her, but she did an amazing job with this, and the cast seemed to really enjoy her presence there. And a time traveler herself doing the directing, I think is pretty awesome. My final award, it goes to, and I don't know who chose it this week. I don't know if it's, so partly it goes to Jeff Russo for the music. Certainly some of the next gen undertones and some of the scenes is really key. But I had the closed captioning on my screen the second time, and I love it because they put the words to the music that were played in the background. And so obviously, we hear the music from the bus, which is very powerful and very, is adapted for the times now. But also if you go back and listen and turn on the closed captioning and listen to the music as Picard comes into 10 forward, it's also very poignant and spot on. So obviously these aren't Jeff Russo songs, but kudos to him, or to, and I didn't do the research to find out who the musical coordinator, whether Jeff picks all the music or not. So I apologize to whomever might do this as part of their role on production, but great job with the musical choices this week, really across the board. And finally, I just want to give a huge shout out. Mike, you already did it, but bonus award to Luna for her performance in this episode.
Perfect. I love it. Jamie.
Well, obviously a lot of, awards that have already been covered. But I will say my awards section was really enhanced by watching the Ready Room, I would say. Obviously Ito Agari, hopefully I'm saying that correctly. And the reason I picked her too, and like I said, I was very critical of her when I initially saw the episode, the first time I saw it. And, the more I watch it, the more I reflect on it, the more I watch things like the Ready Room. I was being too critical of her. It's tough shoes to fill. It's Whoopi freaking Goldberg. No one was going to be able to do it justice to what I felt it should be. But yet the more, like I said, I reflect on it and look at the dedication and how she studied the role and, the genuine, her earnestness to get it right. She has grown on me, and she grew on me more, like I said, watching the Ready Room. So I'm going to give her props. Just like I said, I wasn't going to be happy with whoever they picked, but she did a really good job. So she's number one. I'm going to go with Leah Thompson as number two. And once again, I always love Leah Thompson. I loved her in Back to the Future, but once again, my appreciation for what she did in the process of being a director and how she feels about Star Trek was all enhanced watching that Ready Room episode, the behind the scenes look at her directing and how the actors really felt like she was an actor's director and really understood what they were going through on the set and ways to make them feel more comfortable, really deepened my appreciation for Leah Thompson even more so. So that's why I pick her as number two. The third one, and I don't know really who to give credit for, but I thought and I know this was mentioned in the Ready Room too as well, but the bar, 10 Guinan's bar, I thought was decorated very nice as well. After I watched the Ready Room episode, just kind of seeing it and picking it out the second or third time, really kind of hit the theme and the mood of what a bar from Whoopi in that time period should look like. And I'm gonna give one more special shout out, Kirk Thatcher on the bus. I think he did a tremendous job.
So not only did one person cheat in the awards section, two of you did. That's it.
Cheating? Wait, I thought that's doing your homework.
I'm taking away one of your awards for next week. Just kidding. All right, Fran.
Well, of course, what all of you said, the young lady that played the young Whoopi was fantastic. Just she hit it out of the park. I think Alison Peel playing with Stewart and the Borg Queen, she holds her own. I'm like, this woman got it. She's got it. She's really a great actor, I think. What else? Well, of course, Luna. Luna was adorable. She was just, I wanted to just pick her up and kiss her on the side of her cute jaws.
Uh-huh.
JAWS. Okay.
Yep.
And we all know Patrick's love for, pitties. So that was, I'm sure that was his doing. So I just,
so cute.
Yeah. And my other one was the comedy relief, I would say, of Raffi and Seven. And Seven was such a Borg. You're doing your job and everything. We're going to get out of your personal space. And I'm like, she's such a Borg. She's such a Borg. And I thought that was, I thought it was funny. We kind of needed that in that episode, I thought. So, that's it. That's all my awards thing. But who cannot, if you don't, you got to be inhuman if you can't love Luna,
Right. I was watching with my daughter and I said, look at that tongue. That tongue is fantastic. She's standing there at the table, and it seemed like it was halfway down her neck, but I was just like, that is so great, so adorable.
Library computer, data being received.
All right, it is prediction time. Now, in fairness to Fran, I am not going to put her on the spot for the first predictions on this episode. We'll let that be a second episode thing for her. So we'll give it to Jamie for his prediction.
My prediction is really focused on the blonde at the end of the episode. Obviously, I think she is the divergence, and she is somehow connected to Picard. She might be an ancestor. I see some eerily similar characteristics, mannerisms to Picard's actual mother in her. And I kind of also hearken back to that speech that Picard delivered back at Starfleet Academy, where he was talking about one of his ancestors, Renee Picard, I think was the name that he used. So I think she might be Renee Picard, or she might be somebody that's closely connected to Renee Picard, maybe Renee's mother, something to that effect. But I'm going to go with that. I think she is Renee. And I think, Q was obviously reading that article about that Europa mission to explore Jupiter. So I think that she's obviously heavily connected to that article that he's reading, that maybe she's going to go on that mission. The fact that she's reading a Dixon Hill novel by Tracy Torme makes me think she's definitely a Picard, because, it's going to run in the family. They like Dixon Hill. It's going to be something that kind of runs in the family.
A lot of subtle signs there.
Yeah, a lot of subtle signs that she's got to be a Picard. And I think that the fact that she's a Picard, maybe that's why Q can't, snap his finger and do anything to her. Somehow, because she's the linchpin or the divergence, and because of the relationship with Picard, he can't, obviously the easy way for him to screw up the timeline would be just get rid of her, kill her off, and for some reason he can't just snap his finger and do that. So I think a lot of these signs point to that she is Renee Picard, or a Picard-like ancestor.
I had forgotten that whole speech about Renee Picard in episode 1. Huh. Interesting. It's probably because when I hear the name Renee Picard, I think of his nephew.
and I think that was on purpose to throw us off, because we all are going to think it must be talking about a male character.
Yep.
Because his nephew. And maybe that's them trying to throw us off and say, no, you think it's a male Renee. It's this blonde female in a red dress or whatever she was wearing.
All right, Mike, are your predictions different from Jamie?
That's an amazing prediction, Jamie. I am impressed with that. That is a great call out.
That's my goal in life, to impress you, Mike Thurlow. So absolutely my goal on every podcast.
Well, you've done it, Jamie. So congratulations. Then we'll start naming the Jamie Rogers Awards.
The Jamie Rogers Prediction Award.
Yes. I'm in double down, and I think it's pretty obvious at this point that Jurati is going to be the Borg Queen that we see in 2400. I also feel like I don't know. I still have trouble with this scene where Picard in his memory is seeing his mother being dragged away. And I'm feeling like somehow the Borg Queen has something to do with that. And from the preview from next week, we start to see her tentacles start to get out of the ship a little bit. And so I'm wondering what, and again, also that sort of ties into this whole butterflies effect, which they keep on mentioning butterflies. So I'm wondering, at this point, there are so many butterflies out of whack in this universe. I do not know how we're going to fix it all. So I'm wondering if, I can't remember, maybe it was one of you guys last week thinking that Rios is going to stay in the past. That was another Jamie Rogers special right there.
Wow.
That man is on fire. He's gonna take over your job, Mike. You're But I think that we're going to see more butterflies. I think we've already seen enough butterflies to destroy the future at this point, or potentially knock the future off course anyway. So, I'm anxious to see. But I think that I think definitely Jurati is going to be underneath all of that cool 2400 Borg Queen outfit.
I have no fears of Jamie taking my job because early on in the Divine Treasury process, he told me, nope, not interested.
Maybe he's coming for Bill and Dan's jobs then. I don't know. There, I'll stir the pot a little bit there.
No, he speaks English too well.
Nice.
Fran, do you have a prediction for this week? Or going forward, rather?
I'm with you all. I pretty much think Jurati is that the Borg Queen under all that stuff that we saw in episode 1.
Mm.
I don't know. I think that the young Whoopi is going to stay. I don't think she's going to leave. Because she could leave because this is an alternate timeline and she could just leave Earth, but I think we're going to see her again in some capacity. Nice. And I think it's going to be a crucial capacity that we see her in because, and I know this is in real life, but in real life, he actually went to her job, The View, and invited her on to this show. So, Whoopi has to, Guinan has to play some kind of crucial, has to be instrumental in this thing too. So that's my prediction.
I'm going to double down on the Whoopi thing and the Guinan thing. I think just like in Time Zero, how Picard saved Whoopi in Time Zero, I feel like later on in this season, there's going to be another spot where young Guinan is in trouble and Picard saves her again, to kind of bring it full circle to this unique relationship that they have. So I'm doubling down on Guinan.
The bald man that took care of her once.
I'm going to triple down on that one and say that she saves him. She saves them somehow.
Ooh.
I'm going to say that she feels guilty or she decides to get involved and does something to save them. I think
Thurlow with the curveball.
I mean, I like Jamie's. I'll give you that, Jamie. That is I think that nice piece might happen, but I think it's going to be slightly different. I think that she's going to save the bald man this time.
Well, I'm nowhere near as creative as all of you. So I kind of took some of the leads that we got and everyone else seemed to agree with on this. The fact that when Whoopi, listen to me, when Guinan said to Picard, after he revealed who he was, she said to him, "You're looking for a supervisor, a watcher." And right away, my ears perked up and I was like, ooh, Assignment Earth, Gary 7, Supervisor 194. So the Laris lookalike we know is obviously the Watcher. But I'm feeling like she must be part of that organization that Gary 7 was a part of. I know it's pretty obvious, but, I'm a simpleton, so I go where I got to go.
No, kudos to you, Mike. I did not. I remember the supervisor comment, but I did not tie it back to Gary 7. So nicely done.
I watched it at 3 a.m, so I couldn't even jump out of my seat and start yelling "ooh ooh ooh ooh" because I would have woke everyone in the house up. Okay, so that is our predictions. Where are we going next week? Well, next week, Picard discovers that an important person from his past may be integral to the divergence in the timeline. Q continues his manipulation of the timeline, taking an interest in Dr. Adam Soong. Seven and Raffi attempt a daring rescue of Rios, while Jurati faces the consequences of her deal with the Borg Queen. Episode 5 is entitled Fly Me to the Moon, and we'll be covering it here for you on Discovering Trek Picard.
And don't forget that you can support Discovering Trek and the Trek Geeks Podcast Network by subscribing to bonus content on Patreon. Get access to unedited audio of all our podcasts and a lot of other awesome perks. If you'd like to support this and the other member podcasts of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network, beam on over to patreon.com/TrekGeeks, where subscriptions start as low as $2 a month.
For more great Star Trek discussion, check out the aforementioned member podcasts on the network. In addition to Discovering Trek, there is Trek Geeks, Rewind, Politreks, 5-Year Mission, Deep Space Pride, Drawn to Trek, Infinite Trek, The Divine Treasury, Sci-Fi Sisters, Science Station 2, With the First Link, and the newest addition to the network, Con Pod, about Star Trek conventions. You can find all these shows and where to listen on trekgeeks.com/listen or by downloading the Trek Geeks mobile app.
The Trek Geeks Podcast Network. No one talks Trek like we do.
So before I get into my typical review of the episode, I just want to say to the three of you, this was one of the reasons that I enjoy podcasting so much. This episode right here. The conversation that we had, I think, was deep. It was meaningful, and we all walk away friends at the end. So thank you for your participation in this. So it's great to see some connections to older Trek being used to drive the storyline. But what will Picard learn from the Watcher? We'll have to find out next week. To close this episode, I'm going to quote Jean-Luc Picard from this episode. History's darkest moments can be a tipping point for change. And until next time, never stop discovering.
Music for Discovering Trek is provided by 5-Year Mission. They're writing an original song for each episode of Star Trek. Hear more of their music at 5yearmission.net. Discovering Trek is a production of Coconut Media Works. Executive producers Bill Smith and Dan Davidson. For more great Star Trek discussion, discover the other shows of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network at trekgeeks.com or find us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.